I've had a few people recently mention the concept of seeing yourself from like a third-person perspective. This is a very common occurrence with psychedelics, disassociative. The disassociation from what was normally your ego self. Cognitive dissonance. It's a separation. It's a separation from what you used to perceive yourself as. That's where the discomfort comes in. I've had 2, 3, 4 people talking about this recently, so I wanted to mention it. You're feeling the separation from a separation. That's what that is. The first separation is the original ego identification. When you glommed onto your given name, when you glommed onto your memories, when you glommed onto your future projections, and you took all of those and bundled them up into a data mass in your mind. And that data mass you consider to be yourself, which is not. So that's the first separation. And then when you're taking LSD or you're taking DMT, for me, just weed, I'm sensitive to these things, so weed did the trick quite effectively. So when you take these things, or if you just have an awakening experience, you don't have to take drugs. But when you take these things or have an awakening experience, what happens is that mass, that idea mass, which is composed of what you have come to consider yourself, future past, name, memories, all this, memories of this particular body-mind. When you take an LSD tablet, or you take DMT, or for me, you take weed, what happens is it creates a separation between that mass and your current perceived experience. So now the words coming out of the mouth don't seem like you anymore. The memories of the things that this particular body mind has gone through don't necessarily seem like you anymore. You seem to be floating off somewhere else, just looking. But there's still a partial attachment. That's when it's very traumatic, when it's the fracturing of the mind. That's what Og talks about a lot. Because if the consciousness, or the raw consciousness, as Geo calls it, Chris Geo, if that's just as it is, and all attachments have been released, there are no issues whatsoever. There's no pain, there's no suffering, because the identification attachments have already been released. It's when there's a partial releasing, and this experience flow through the body mind is still happening, still occurring, but you're not as firmly and comfortably identified with this mass that you used to be. So now the things that were normally natural, such as words happening, or physical sensations happening, or thoughts happening, even a simple act as drinking a glass of water, that can turn into an alien experience for you, and it's very traumatizing. And those things they must be worked through, they must be integrated, and they must be released, otherwise they will continue to cause you trauma. That's partially the work of a Reiki practitioner. That's the work of any energy healer, or any type of healer that's actually doing healing. That's not just spoon feeding you with pharmaceuticals. But after you have had one of these experiences, you've had the cognitive dissonance, you've had this freaking out moment where what you consider to be you, all your talking, all of your thinking, all of your interactions with other people, if that starts appearing and feeling fake to you, well, then that means there's something you need to look at. You need to examine what it is that you consider yourself. And if you look into an aspect of it and it turns out to not be you, whatever you consider you to be, that's the whole internal examination anyway. If it turns out to be not that, well, then you just release it. And then that thing, when it pops up in your experience, won't cause you trauma anymore because you won't be grasping it. It can be as a cloud that's floating by. Because I experienced the cognitive dissonance as well, and I went through all the trauma. I went through all that, where all the things, all of my talking, my interactions with others, all this stuff felt fake, and I felt kind of like a prisoner to the sensations rather than a being that was enjoying incarnation. It was more of a prison cell, and it's not like that anymore for me. And I don't even identify with these words coming out. I don't identify with the name. I still don't identify with it. But I don't hold anger towards what's happening, or I don't try and change everything, try and fix the universe. I don't do that anymore, because that is a main cause of stresses. We always think like, I need to do this, I need to do that, I need to fix this, I need to have that job, I need to get rid of this girlfriend, I need to get with that guy, I need to manipulate. And so we're setting up expectations, then we fail, and then we get upset. It's just a cycle. That's why I've said before that meditation is the only thing that exists. That's what I meant, is the allowing of what is to be, rather than thinking you can change it. Because that whole thing of thinking you can change it, you haven't yet even identified what it is that you are. First you gotta really know what that thing that you call you is, if it exists, and then you gotta know what the thing is that you're trying to change, if that exists. Eventually you may find out that neither of those things exist, and those are still more concepts that are laid on top of whatever is. And at some point, along this crazy windy road of mental nuances flapping around and yelling things and then going away, then coming back in a different form, and this sort of carnival ride just goes on and on, and eventually at some point something clicks, and you can just start laughing because the whole thing's hilarious. So there are endless ways to examine what's happening. And if you're examining what's happening in the present moment, it's far more exciting and interesting and ever-changing than if you're stuck in this projection mode only, because the projection mode is just an aspect. The whole, I'm going to do this tomorrow, and I'm going to see this person, and I'm going to do that and that. That's just an aspect of existence. It's a small aspect. It's not even... The present moment itself contains that. You're looking at a very tiny shred of the whole spectrum of what's happening. And I mean, when I say the whole spectrum, I mean only in this realm. This realm is just like a little blip in all of everything. We're talking infinity here. Endless. Never ends. Never started. Concepts can't do anything. Concepts are tools only. They're not the things that they're trying to talk about. And monkey mind, left brain, monkey mind has the hardest time understanding that. It can't understand that. It won't understand that. What happens is you, the spirit, release the monkey mind as being your primary form of being. Instead of just primarily residing in the mental monkey mind, then you're releasing that. And you're allowing all the other aspects to come in. The heart, the feeling, the soul, the love, compassion. You allow all these other things that are part of the spectrum, and you don't allow one little color on the rainbow to try and hog the whole rainbow. What if the whole rainbow just turned blue? It's like, fuck you other colors. I'm everything. Rainbow shall be blue. Well, the rainbow can't do that, but if your consciousness is sitting there in the blue only and ignoring all the rest of the colors, then you're taking a limited experience and you're limiting it even further. The present moment is endless. Endless. You could get lost exploring it. I could never get out of the car and I'd be totally fine. That's what meditation teaches you. And the boogie monsters go away.